Hello and welcome everyone. It's late at night and I haven't done a YouTube video in a while, and so it is October 14th 2019, and so I've been doing some things and driving around, and just wanted to do a quick video and kind of talk a little bit about the state of the planet and where we are at and what is going on with the Great Awakening and the Cosmic Awakening. The movement on our planet from dark energy to light energy, the movement to truth, the movement to higher dimensional energy sequences coming down, and also the activation of our great central sun, which is then activating our sun and bringing in more cosmic energy. There I am, a little bit of light from the road. Hope I'm not too spooky looking with Halloween coming up. But, you know, this has been a very interesting time, and I think that what I am seeing in a lot of the communities, even spiritual communities, among teachers, is a real hard time with some of the things happening on the planet. There's a lot that doesn't make sense, and people are calling it a very turbulent time, and there's so much chaos and polarity. But really, we have to shift the lens a little bit and really look at this from a true perspective that is very, very simple. There's either illumination or there's dark. We are either getting more light coming in and more awareness of what's really been going on, or we are going darker. There's only two ways we can go: more light or more dark. So instead of looking at it from the 3D reality grid or matrix that a lot of the media would want us to look at, or any other, you know, system that we've been living under. I don't want to call out mainstream media and all of that, because everybody does. But what I'm really saying is there's a third dimensional spectrum. And so if we look at things and we try to say that it's this group versus that group, or this idea versus that idea, we're really just in third dimension. You know, I was listening to Edwin Spina in a update that he did, and he mentioned something that really got me thinking, and it's brilliant, and I believe very true, is that fifth dimension is the dimension of wisdom. It's the dimension of discernment. So we're either moving more toward wisdom and an understanding of the light, or we're moving into the dark. So you have to ask that question as you look at reality today, because it's going to seem like, oh my gosh, everything is getting really bad, and, you know, all these horrible things happening. But really, what you have to ask is, are we getting more awareness? Is light coming in to all of the things in our reality that were once dark? And if we begin to ask that question and start to look at different aspects of our culture, we'll start to get a little different view. So let's go through that. Are we getting more light? Let's look at different areas, right? So if we look at what's happening with the drug companies and vaccines, you might say, oh my gosh, there's so much fighting and chaos, and people that don't want to do vaccines and people that do, and there's all these different rules and regulations, and, you know, California is doing this and New York is doing that. They're taking away the medical exemptions, right? And this is awful because people can't agree. Well, that's a very 3D model. And if you're somebody who's a healer or somebody who teaches spirituality, and you look at that, and this happens to me a lot, they will say, oh my gosh, you know, Darius has promoted something about the freedom to choose what you put in your body, but it's just feeding all this fighting energy. We have to just all get along. We have to all just, you know, be love and light and get along. Well, I would say that yes, it's really important to be in a space of love, but pure love without wisdom is foolishness. Because if I go in and I want to love a snake that wants to bite, and that's just what it's going to do, and I could love that snake, I could love that venomous snake with every bit of my heart, but if it's going to strike, it is going to strike. So love, as I heard Edwin Spina say, without wisdom is actually foolish. We can love, but we can also have wisdom. We can have awareness. energies will lead us. Because blind love also means that we can support evil, we can love evil. And a lot of people can say, well, we just love evil till it's no longer. But evil energy in the third dimension is polarity. That is what it's going to do. It may be at the 12th dimension, love energy, because it's unified with source. But at the third dimension, you are not going to love evil out of being evil. And I'm not talking about people that have had a bad upbringing or challenges. I'm talking about things that do not support the expansion of light. They are at the third dimensional realm to be the polar opposite of the light. So they are fulfilling their purpose. You are not going to bring them into the light by love. You are going to bring them into the light by shining the light of full awareness and wisdom on them, no longer choosing them, and then ascending up to a higher level. You don't have to, there's nothing that you have to do that's hurtful or unkind or anything. You just have to choose and know there's a difference. So in the realm of vaccinations and all of this area, we are becoming aware of the truth behind some of the different vaccine schemes. We're becoming aware of the effects of these things on humans. We're becoming aware of what's happening to our elderly with excessive flu shots and mercury in the brain and all of these things that are creating more lack of ease or a disconnection to health because of it. So it's not chaotic. We're bringing in more light. We're having more wisdom, which is a fifth dimensional concept. Let's look at the area of the environment, right? So people who say, I don't unilaterally believe every single thing that I hear about the environment and believe it at face value. I want to question why our climate is changing. Now, if I say that, or someone says that, you might say, oh my gosh, you don't care about the earth, you don't do this, you don't do that. There are many people, we do care about the earth, but the question is, we want to know, are we heating up the planet? Or is this happening because the great central sun is heating up? I recently viewed a very interesting article that was published on space.com. It cited a NASA study that found that all of the planets are heating up in our solar system. Now, if I'm not mistaken, there's no cars, there's no CO2 gas and emissions being released by any life forms on those planets. So the climate is changing. It is a concern. We have to prepare for it. We have to do the right thing to make sure that the climate change does not harm life on Earth. But we also have to have wisdom and discernment to understand the real causes of the climate change. Why is it that we are seeing temperature rise even on planets other than Earth? There's something else going on. You see, that is wisdom. And if we just emotionally react, we're not being wise. And so when you see things on the mainstream or in anywhere where someone is getting a very emotional response to something, you are now in third dimension and lower vibration instead of wisdom. The wise person can ask the question and then begin to look for a new way of understanding that reality. And so even in those areas where people are coming out and saying, hey, what about this? I want to know the truth about what's really happening. That is wisdom. What is going on with things like censorship? You may look at it and say, oh my gosh, there's so much infighting about this, or we have to control free speech, we have to control ideas. But in reality, what we're seeing is that we have been controlled. And we are seeing the schemes and the plans to control humanity through the control of information. Many of you may not be familiar with Project Veritas that just released a video today where CNN executives, and I know this sounds political and partisan and all of the things that us spiritual people don't want to talk about, but when you think about what's going on in the realm of our governance, most of your day-to-day reality of how your country operates is due to the political structure of that country. Whether you have freedom, whether you don't. Whether you have the right to marry who you want to or you don't. Whether you have the right to acquire capital or you don't. All of these things are determined by the political structure of our country and where we live. So these are important things. So when we mention that a broadcasting company like CNN, through Project Veritas, has actually been promoting an agenda through Zucker, who's the president, and the president came out saying, I don't care what the news is, I want you to have this viewpoint on all the stories, then that no longer is a news organization. That's a propaganda organization. That is a propaganda arm of a certain viewpoint. Does not encourage free thought. So this is actually something that just broke today. And it came out. So ask the question. You may look at that and say, oh my gosh, these people are getting so upset about this. Look, the whole trust in the world is falling apart. Or we are getting more light. We're getting more information. We're getting more understanding of what's really been going on. Let's look in the area of politics, which a lot of people don't like. But in these areas, we're seeing now, through a lot of different sources, that there is indeed a deep state. There is a cabal. There is a group of people who have a certain agenda that they want to see come forward. And we've known this. We've talked about Epstein. We've talked about the connections to people like Bill Gates, to the Clintons, even perhaps to Donald Trump. We've talked about it. And no one has been more vehement, I believe, or maybe I've been just as vehement as other people, is that if there is something with anyone involved, is something involving children, we do not want to see this in our world. But the beauty of it is that we are getting more light. We are starting to see these connections. It's happening in every area of our reality. If you are a spiritual person and you are saying, oh gosh, don't talk about these things, they're not love and light, ascension into 5D is going to be through wisdom. It is going to be through seeing what is behind the veil. You're not going to get there looking at love and light. You can feel good. You can have a great day. You can be in the park and enjoy yourself. But you're not lifting the vibration truly of humanity until you get under the dark and you bring light to that. You bring light to that shit and you let people know what's really freaking going on. Because unless we do that, we are not going to bring light to the entire planet at a mass scale. We can believe that being in love and vibration will make a difference, and I do think it will. You're not going to help yourself by being frustrated. But nobody said you cannot be in love and light, my friends, and share the reality of what's going on. Big difference. You see, spiritual people believe that if you get into talking about any of the problems in the world, you can't be in love. That's a false light doctrine. That is a way to divert our power and keep us living in a bubble reality of a world that does not include spiritual people. Spiritual people that understand higher dimensional reality need to be involved in these discussions. They need to be able to look at the issues. We need to look at the issues and have the power to say, we can talk about these things and we can make a decision as to how we feel the world would be best served, and we ascend upward. Do you think the Palladians, the Arcturians, high advanced spiritual beings, do you think they just say, well, we're not going to get involved in how anything is governed. We're going to sit all day and meditate? No way. The structure is organized around these higher spiritual truths. And at some point in their ascension process, they had to be involved in that day to day. So I don't buy it. When a spiritual person writes me and says, oh, I saw you posting this, I don't want to be, I don't want to be associated with you because you're talking about this and that. Damn right I'm talking about it. You know why I'm talking about it? Because if we don't talk about it, if we don't try to shed light when there are things, even if I am wrong, shed light on it, bring it forward, talk about it, then guess what? There will come a day that the dark will prevail on earth, and we will not have the freedom to even bring these dialogues forward. Look, for many of you that know, there has been a huge agenda going all the way back, way before our time, to the Anunnaki, to the Draco reptilians who formed an alliance. And the fear, the giant fear, for those that don't understand the ancient truths about some of the ancient aliens and inhabitants, is that we ascend the 12-strand DNA. And that ascension will come when we activate that DNA. Now, there's been massive manipulation of the human DNA. And the Galactic Federation of Light and the original star family saw this. And they realized that this human DNA was getting cut off. It was being, so we have 12 strands were cut, manipulated, fused, and we operate in this 2-strand DNA. And the fear of these beings is that if we ascend up too high, if we get to too high a vibration, then they can no longer live at this dimensional reality. The Draco, according to Corey Good and other people, they've been cut off. They're to the Orion. So they are past Jupiter. From what I remember, they are cut. They are terrified. Now, some of you are going to say, what does that have to do with all these different issues? Let me break it down for you. And I'm not in an angry mood or anything like that. But I am going to be realistic, and I want people to hear me. And if you're a spiritual person that, has followed sort of the mainstream spirituality doctrines, and you watch, people that have the best-selling New York Times books, and it's all love and light, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with it. I've had many people on my show. But what we have to understand is that it's much than just operating at that one level of you feeling good and having everything you want, the big house, the car, and the perfect relationship, because that's what most of the spirituality at the 3rd dimensional level teaches us that we need to focus in on, or we just need to be present with our thoughts, or we need to be in alignment with what we really want, and then we're going to get it. And it's all about the self. And maybe they'll dabble into a little bit about doing good on the planet. But the truth is, we're way more than that. We're multidimensional beings. We exist at a multitude of dimensions. So we're not limited by that. And we can bring our light into any situation that's facing the planet. We can bring our light and love to anything going on. So one of the things that I say to you today is to understand that you are way more powerful than you are given credit for. And we have this ability to activate a huge amount of our own power, of our own truth, of our own higher dimensional DNA, just by aligning our power to the truth of what we really want to create on this planet. And so when spiritual people shy away from these topics, and we're not allowed to talk about it because it's not love and light, it's not the domain that we're supposed to be in. We're supposed to just be in love and light. And, if we talk about what's going on, we talk about deception, we talk about, organized crime at the higher levels and the control of humanity, and we talk about vaccinations, and we talk about different agendas. Oh, we can't do that because it's not love and light. We're not being spiritual. That is a trap. That is a false light to keep you in a box. How are you going to create a world where there is the essence of spiritual truth in every aspect of that world, unless people that are spiritual take an interest in things like the political establishment, the political agendas, the pharmaceutical complex, the vaccination issues happening on the planet, the global war issues that we deal with, the global hunger, the manipulation of our food supply, GMOs, the geoengineering. How are we going to actually shift the world if the spiritual people stay in their bubble and they stay in their space of just being love and light? I really like to ask that question. How? There's a belief that maybe if a certain number of us are in love, all these things are miraculously going to change, and it could very well be. But you know what? We've been waiting. And you know how it is changing? Perhaps through that. Perhaps through the ascension process. but also perhaps because people are starting to speak up and awaken, and they're starting to bring wisdom to everything and starting to choose. We're starting to choose. We're starting to decide. We're starting to realize that there is a system that in some respects wants to control our information. Why? Why is there a system trying to control our bodies? Why? Why is there a system trying to control our food? Why is there a system trying to control our children and how they are educated? Why is all of this stuff in play? And why does it all seemingly feel like it's connected? Because there is an agenda to keep humanity from ascending. And that ascension is happening. The good news is they can't stop it. It's not something they can stop, because the frequencies are all being activated by these great central suns. It's accelerating the process. So if you are a spiritual person, my lesson today that I want to share is share your truth. If you're involved in a topic, if you feel strongly about a topic, don't isolate or feel like you can't share something really important to you. Share it. If it has to do with the education of children, share it. Has to do with our food supply, share it. Has to do with, the things that our kids are being vaccinated with, share your truth. Share it. Let people know. If people don't like it or they don't feel comfortable with it, that's their own shadow. That's the thing they have to work on. That's not going to, you being quiet is not going to accelerate the ascension. It's not going to bring mass consciousness and awareness to issues that have been covered up. It's not going to make people aware of what's happening and then marshal the human power of love to say no more. It's not going to do any of that. And sure, people aren't going to like it. I have it all the time. Oh, I'm not going to support Darius because he's talking about this. I thought this was love and light. Well, if I find out that an organization is stealing money from children who need food, and I decide, well, if I call them out, that's not going to be love and light, I'm just going to keep that quiet. That would be a grave injustice. We have to shine the light on manipulations in our reality. We have to shine the light on the dark. So I just wanted to make this quick video. When you see distortions in the field, when you see things that don't look right, when you see things that to you seem like, wow, the world is really messed up, the world isn't messed up. We're seeing the systematic crumbling of all of our major systems because we're actually seeing the light start to show through the cracks. And do you know what caused those cracks? People like you, me, and everyone else who is holding a space of something more. And until we actually all hold that space of something more, and we begin to share what it could be like, and we begin to share the inequity and the injustice, we're not going to be able to crack through those systems. And it's done through our awareness, through our consciousness, and through knowing and being aware. Fifth dimension is, as Ed Spina said, the dimension of wisdom. We will get to wisdom once we are able to discern. And you know what brings discernment? Seeing the truth. And the truth, as they say, will set you free. How do you see the truth? You have to look into the dark and share what you are discovering. So don't be afraid. Don't let people drown your light because you're sharing something that is inconvenient for them. You Wealth Revolution, my show, the show that we all connect to at some level, was not founded to make me look good or to be a show about somebody's model of what spirituality should be. You Wealth is the truth that humanity in and of itself is a divine connected being of infinite power and awareness. That is what us humans are. We are multidimensional. You Wealth is that inner well-being that comes from knowing that. And You Wealth is also a metaphor for the human planet of Earth to ascend into that new reality and become free of that old paradigm and matrix. So share the truth, share your light, and continue to do the work that you're doing. Much love and light. Thank you for letting me just share these thoughts and things coming forward. We are going to be seeing a lot more in the coming months. They're going to be inconvenient truths for people that they will not understand. They will not understand the level of criminality and illegality that's been happening. And I have no relationship or care what side of the aisle or where it comes from. If it's dark, if it's holding back the agenda of humanity to move forward and ascend, I don't want it. I don't want it. And it is going to be shocking for a lot of people. And that's okay, because that's how we are going to all come together and redefine what it means to be a human being on the planet. And then we are going to move into the age of wisdom. And so if you are in a place of wisdom and knowing, share that wisdom, share that light. You can do it. Much love, everyone. Thanks for watching. And I will continue to share some updates. Sorry, I've been away from YouTube for a little while here. Much love and light. Thanks for watching and seeing a lot of dark in the camera because it's nighttime. Take care, everyone. I love you.